Marcus the Maniac McGee. Welcome to Liga Combate. You're actually the second English guest in this channel, and I'm pretty honored that you're here, dude.
Awesome. I'm honored to be in here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Nah, it's a pleasure. So to give everyone a little backstory, we met in Miami. I was there covering UFC 299. On Media Day, I ran into Marcus. I was like, dude, we got to link up. We need to talk. There's so many questions I want to ask. You're a father. You're a skateboarder. You're a savage in the 135-pound division. So there's a lot of things I want to talk to you and get your mind, see what your thoughts are. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we were able to line this up. So let's get on with it. First things first. You arriving in UFC getting a very short notice call. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? How did you handle it? What was the emotion when you got the call? And were you in camp when that happened?
Yeah, so the emotions were crazy, right? Because it was a 3-day notice. I had confidence, but there's always that doubt in the back of the head, no matter what. We could say we don't have it, but it's normal and natural to have that. But it was also exciting, like, wow, this is really happening. When they say it happens fast, it happens fast. And it's so funny because me and my buddy were just talking about like whether or not I'd be ready to fight that weekend. Like, oh, he was saying, he's like, man, you're a fighter anyways, you'd be able to fight that weekend. And I was like, you're right, bro. We're talking mess. We're just talking mess. And then 30 minutes later, my coach calls me and it's like God was saying, yep, hey, he was talking about all that. Are you really about that
Are
though?
you about that
So
life?
it was time to go. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Um,
crazy.
but yeah, so it was kind of crazy emotions. But I was ready to go. I was already working in camp. I had been training for, I don't know, maybe 3 months straight, just looking for
Okay.
a fight, trying to get a fight. And I knew it was going to be a short notice fight somewhere, no matter what, because it seemed like that's all I was like getting was short notice fights. So I was like, all right, bet, just be ready. And then they called me for that fight, and I was like, all right, bet, yeah, I can make weight. And it went from there basically.
That is the reason I asked you this question is exactly tied to the weight cutting. Why? When I met you in Miami, when I saw you, I'm like, Jesus Christ, how does Marcus make 135? And then I'm thinking, I'm like, wait, he debuted at short notice. I know it was a catch weight, it was 140, but still, that must have been a rough weight cut. So I'm like, I need to ask him how rough the weight cut was because 3 days notice it's pretty wild. Some people start cutting way before that, and you only had 3 days to make 140. What were you weighing when you got the
Yeah.
call?
So I was like 53. Like again, like outside of camp, I have been doing like especially right now. Everybody's been saying a lot about how big I am right now. I've been doing a lot of strength training, and I
Okay.
think just eating normal and then doing that strength training has added to my muscle mass. So I'm definitely bigger right now. But again, I'm starting to cut back on that as well, and I was fine with it because we still didn't have a fight scheduled. I've been able to work on some of the other attributes that I've been wanting to work on. Never really did a whole lot of work focus on strength and mobility, so it's been fun doing that. But it did add to the weight gain. But when I'm in camp, I'm for sure diligent. I start my camps at a lot lower weight. Like usually 8 weeks out from a fight, I'm down to 158 pounds, 57 pounds, and that's where I'm hovering. I hover there until about 6 weeks out. And then I'll start cutting down from there. So very diligent when it comes to being inside of camp, and even when I'm outside of it, like there's different weight gains, right? Some people get chubby and kind of get a little bit thicker. But for me, it's like I've been doing a lot of strength training, so it's muscle right now.
No,
I'm
trust
Hercules.
me, dude. I can tell. I can tell. I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was like, dude, you're not gonna believe this. I really don't know how Marcus can make 135 like this. I'm weighing around probably. I'm more 160, 165 right now. And right next to you, I felt little. I was like, dude, he's huge. He's huge. Now I understand why these guys are getting knocked out left and right. But to be honest, I don't think your work ethic has ever been put into question. You debuted in short notice. You had an amazing performance when you went out there. The commentary team were talking about that. There's like, this is a short notice fight. He's putting the pressure, like he's pressuring this guy. Dominic said, hey, this is what he needs to do. He doesn't know how long he can go. But dude, that never seemed to bother you, and it's never seemed to bother you in any of your fights. Can you talk a little about your strength, like your cardio, how you train, how do you work around all that?
Yeah, man. I don't. I love it because going into these fights, to put in the work. I don't ever even think about getting tired. That's not even like in my mind. I don't even start the fight thinking about getting tired. Whatever my output's gonna be is gonna be my output. and that's just based off of the work. I know I can get tired. I'm a human being just like the next person, but I don't necessarily think about it, and it's not really in the back of my head because I am doing a lot of strength and conditioning. I am doing all the rounds. Like our rounds are crazy. We do Shark Tank rounds. Our wrestling, even today, like we did a full hour and 10 minute wrestling practice, then did 5 minute rounds at the end
Wow.
with killers, and this is just grappling, specifically wrestling and jiu-jitsu, but it's like that's just a Tuesday regular fight team practice. So it's like when we're putting in that type of work and we're enjoying the process, when you really take in, and are in the moment for the process, I feel like it gives me the ability to shine. It gives me the ability to go out there and have the confidence that, hey, I can get caught. Anything could happen, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think about getting tired. I'm never focused on that because we are putting so much work in. And my weight cuts are actually not bad. I feel like I was kind of made for weight cutting because I push through them pretty easy. I don't really cut a lot of crazy weight during fight week. I'm diligent ahead of time to make sure that I'm at the weight I need to be going into fight week, which makes my weight cuts doable, and we enjoy it. I know you saw us having fun. Like
Yeah,
we have
dude.
fun fight week. We love what we do.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So there's a lot of things I want to get into that are outside of fight. But before we get into that, do you have a fight lined up? Is there talks about because people want to see you get back in there, dude. Like when I said, hey, I'm interviewing Marcus McGhee tomorrow, do you want to ask him any questions? People flipped out. And one thing I want to point out, my market is Spanish. This channel is 100% in Spanish. So the fact that people reacted the way they did shows me that they have a lot of appreciation for what you do, and you have a very solid fan base in the Hispanic community, dude.
That's awesome, and honestly, I appreciate it, man. That's love, That's
Yeah.
love, man, and yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome to know that, because just trying to be authentic to who I am, and be around that type of energy. So I love the love. But as far as the fight goes, I'm still waiting to hear back from the UFC right now.
Okay.
I've been open already for it. Obviously I haven't gotten nothing scheduled, but I'm hoping that we get scheduled by June. International Fight Week would be great. I'm loving whatever matchup they give me. I know no matter who I fight, everybody's tough,
Yeah.
right? And I really believe that. I'm in one of the toughest divisions inside of the UFC, the hardest sport, organization to get into and to stay in. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm staying ready, staying diligent, staying training, getting better in areas that I can, and then so when I do come out to fight, I can keep showcasing my skill set like I have, because I've been pretty blessed to be able to step in the cage, and because sometimes even when you work the hardest, even when you give everything you have to this sport, still, you fall short sometimes, and that's the reality of this sport because of how real it is and how momentary it is. You really got to grasp that moment. So that's all I'm trying to do. Stay in the right type of mind state so that when the opportunity comes, I'm ready to fight. So hopefully International Fight Week, it'd be cool if McGregor has a card to be on the McGregor card and come out there in style, that'd be cool. So we'll see what they got going on.
Yeah, definitely. Dude, one thing I consider the 135 to be the best division, the most competitive. People get on to me because I say that, but when you look at the top 15, it's straight killers, right? Your last fight was against Gaston Bolaños. Gaston is a very good fighter, and people have very high expectations of him. To put it into mild and simple words, you ran through him. And I think that was the performance that impressed a lot of people in the Hispanic community. They was like, who is this guy and why have we not been watching prior to this? Like, the fact that you were able to handle Gaston in the way you did and then finish him, I think elevated the bar in people's eyes of what you can do and what's your real potential in this division. Do you have a time frame where on when you want to be ranked or how soon you want to fight ranked opposition? Because after what we saw, I'm pretty sure you're going to have a number right next to your name very soon.
I appreciate that as well. I appreciate the love on that, and I don't have a time schedule. I always say God's timing, right? Like I got in God's timing. Everything's on God's timing. My job, my duty is to keep showing up, putting on His armor, and putting my best foot forward. So I'm looking forward to climbing those ranks, and like I have a lot of confidence in myself, and I don't really talk about it a whole lot, but I do have a lot of confidence in myself and my abilities. But to go out and then prove it against a guy who I really thought, like, Gaston is so legit and
Super
such a
legit.
tough guy, like I really seen him as a big challenge. But then to go out and perform the way I performed against a guy that like that, I was like, man, it just keeps on showing me that trust the process, right? Trust the process. Who knows how far I could take this thing? Maybe I have a number by my name by the end of the year. Maybe it's by before the end of the year. Who knows? So sky's the limit. I'm gonna keep putting my best foot forward, training hard and giving everything I have to my family, my friends, and my team around me. And I really feel like sky's the limit. I got some killers at my gym. All those guys are in the top 15. I got 3 guys in my gym that are in the top 15 now, and competing against them on a regular basis is a blessing. So like. Why not me? I always say. So I do no rush on it, no time limit on it, but why not me?
Yeah, of course. Nice thing that you touch on the fact that you have multiple teammates that are ranked in the same division. Because I wanted to talk about ego a little bit. Like, at the end of the day, ego is a big part of this sport. You're going in with a goal, and your end goal is to be champion. I've seen it before. How do you guys handle that? Because when I saw you fight week, dude, the kind of relationship you have with, like, Kyler and your team, I've trained before. I know but I want to show people, or you maybe can put it into words better. How is the camaraderie? I don't know the word properly or how to pronounce it, but you know what I mean. Doesn't that get in the way of your competitiveness when it comes to training and when it comes to business? Because at the end of the day, you're looking at a division that you might end up in a situation where either you face your friends, or just like Marab and Aljo, you have to sit out and just like, you know what, I'm not going to find my teammates. Have you guys had this conversation prior?
Yeah, so we all have had the conversation, and I haven't really talked to Suge about it, but I think he feels the same way. Like, if we get to that point, like, that's a big if, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're all hovering around, but if we did get to the point where it's champion versus champion, and we've worked our way to being the next guy in line for champion, who says, I mean, not that we're trying to fight each other, but like, I'm not going to go out and make 500,000 with my best friend. Like, I'm not against that. Right. So like, not, so we don't really take it too serious because it's so far away. Right.
Yeah.
Like, we don't think about that. And then as far as the ego thing goes, like, everyone does have their ego, but I think one thing that we have done as a group has been really good about putting our egos to the side and just training. Right. Because like, all that aside, all the noise aside, we have to get better. We have to be the best form and version of ourselves every fight to even get to the point where we might even fight each other. So, like, there's a lot of work in that. So, even getting Nagstat, Kyler has said the same thing, Mario said the same thing. Obviously, we're not going to fight each other for anything other than a championship. It makes no sense for us to fight each other for anything other than a championship, unless it was, like, even like a disqualifier for whoever gets the champion, something like that. It'd have to be, like, one of those type of situations, because us fighting each other just to fight each other for ranking, that doesn't make sense. But for a championship, I can understand where everyone will be like, oh, if it comes to that. So again, me and Kyler were joking about it after his fight. He was at his press conference like, yeah, you want to fight right now, Marcus? Like, we do this anyways, and to tell me that we wouldn't do it to make a bunch of money is like, it's like, that's not the vibe that we're kind of on. We're more like, all right, well, we'll see when we get there, but I'm not going to be hurt if somebody's like, hey, yeah, you're up next, Marcus. I want to come make this money. I think I whoop you. Let's go make, a ton of money together. I'm going to be like, bet. And then we can open up a company together. We can create generational wealth together. Like, there's so much further than just the fight. The fight is 25 minutes where we're trying to hurt each other, But we're trying to hurt each other a little bit right now.
Yeah.
Like, so... I don't know. We kind of we just think about it a little differently. We're trying not to go into it emotionally or egotistically. And there's a lot of a landscape that we have to cover till there's even that question, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even in it yet, and I feel like Mario and Kyler are, but they still got 2 or 3 fights. Each one of them still got 2 or 3 fights before they're even in that conversation,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, that's 2 or 3 fights that they have to not only go out and win, but they have to go out and show that they are, you know what I'm saying, which is hard. Even though those guys are great, that is still a hard task. This is fighting, you know?
It is. It's pretty awesome the way you guys look at it, because in the past we saw Dana be very critical of the situation with Aljo and Marab, no? And I kind of understand it. Like, it'd be kind of hard to beat the living crap out of my friend, even though you guys do it on a regular basis in the gym. Now the way you present it, it's like, dude, they're just throwing some money on you for doing it. It's like, when you look at it that way, it doesn't sound as bad. And you're pretty on point with the fact that it's just a fight, dude. It's 25 minutes. We're both making money, and at the end of the day, life goes on, and we're still friends afterwards. So I like the way you look at it. Now, let's talk about your nickname, the Maniac, because watching your fights, doing a little study before we had this conversation, I noticed something, dude. It's like a switch. You literally turn into a maniac once the horn sounds, and as soon as it's over, it's like a switch. You become this nice, extremely kind and thoughtful individual. How do you handle that? Because it kind of blew my mind. I've met you outside of a cage, right? And you're an extremely nice person, very approachable, very nice. But when people look at you fighting, you're a scary dude, Marcus.
I appreciate it, man, and that is a switch. And it's weird because I think that switch has just been something that I developed over time to be able to turn it on. Because I used to not have control of that switch, and anything used to be able to set me off. It bothered me for a long time that people had that much control over me. You know, it bothered me that anybody can flip that switch. I used to find pride in the fact that people could flip that switch on me, and I just go off and do whatever I do, and then I look stupid at the end of it. You know, it became worrisome to me, and it was something that I had to learn how to deal with outside of the cage, outside of the gym. But I come into the gym with that same mentality, right? Like if I can't control myself in those moments, if I can't be that cerebral about it, then am I mastering this thing? Am I really going into this trying to be a master, or am I just going in this and trying to be a brute, right? Am I letting this develop and grow me into more than just a fighter, but into a man? Like it embodies so much more to me, you know, than just the initial fight, which initially it was all about just the aggression, the fight, going out there. But it's like, okay, cool. Can I beat somebody up? Cool. Can I knock somebody out? Cool. Can I conduct myself the way I want to conduct myself at the same time and do that? Even better, you know. It's like, can I be a gentleman, you know, which is hard. That's a very hard thing, and I think it adds to my style, adds to my ability to flip that switch on, because it takes away from it being emotional, and it goes into it just being I can just be free and be thoughtful and free in the moment, you know, and not have to be holding on to all these different things, you know. I don't have to hold on to the ifs and ands and buts. I'm just there. I'm just there. I'm present. I'm doing my best, and the moment that it's over, it's over. The moment that it starts, it started, you know. So it is a switch, and my training partners have asked me a lot about that too, and I do think it's something you have to hone and become comfortable with. You know, I'm comfortable with that moment, and even more so in the UFC. Like, it's crazy. All my performances in the UFC, I felt like even I've handled that even more, and it's something that means more to me than just the win. You know.
No, it's been pretty evident, in my opinion. It's been pretty evident, because that's one thing that's the cerebral aspect of fighting has always intrigued me, right? I look very closely at what fighters do fight week, the interviews, the way they handle themselves, the way they fight, and then the way they talk afterwards. And in your case, you're always extremely grateful, in a way somewhat vulnerable, and you're not afraid to show that. And in my opinion, that's like a breath of fresh air in this day and age, where content creation is such a huge thing, going viral, virality. You're trying to say something controversial that will get you a viral clip that will help you grow your social media, but in that aspect, you let your work do the talking, and people appreciate that. Because at the end of the day, we see a lot of people talk the talk, but when it's time to walk the walk, the energy is very different. In your case, you're an extremely nice and humble guy, but then the horn sounds, and it's, Jesus Christ, do we need to call a priest or something around here? Like, what has gotten into this guy? But I think people love it. I think people appreciate it, and the fact that you do it when you're supposed to, it's a good thing. Don't ever let anyone convince you that that's not a good thing. I think people appreciate that. And yeah, virality is cool, but at the end of the day, you're still a true martial artist, right?
100%. And you know, and again, what am I willing to sacrifice to go viral? You know, not that much. You know, honestly, I think that again, I think there's been this misconception that you have to. That's what you have to do to make it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you have to do for people to want to watch you. That's what you have to do. I really truly believe you have to show up and you have to fight, right? Show up and fight. I think that's the main thing. You know, that's the main thing. Show up and fight and really give your all on this thing. Really go out there and try to finish guys, or get finished, whatever it is, you know. But like that's why people love Justin Gaethje. You know, that's why people love Dustin Poirier. That's why,
Yes.
because these guys go out there every single time, and you're gonna get fireworks out of them against the toughest guy in the world, against the worst guy in the world. Doesn't matter. They're gonna go out and they're gonna do what the best they can do, and you know, and that's I think that's got them where they have, not necessarily all the star power. And it's great if you have. If you know if you're cheeky and you have all these cool things that you could say and you're smooth with
Yeah.
it, but that's not my style. You know,
Yeah.
like that's not my style. I really want to push humility. I really want to push, you know, being bold and being like a good man. You know what I'm saying? Whatever people would say that is, you know, we all have our own thought on what that is, you
Mhm.
know. But I'm trying to push those things. I want to show my kids and show the people around me that you can stay grounded in that aspect and not necessarily go outside your morals and still just get just as big. There's a lot of cool things still that don't have to come with boasting and saying crazy things. You can do some cool stuff like I think I'm still gonna go viral just based off of like, you know, all the other stuff that I do. You know, like,
Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to talk about because out of all the sports you could do outside of outside of MMA, you decided to do one of the most dangerous and extreme sports ever in skateboarding. Has the UFC ever reached out and be like, Marcus, can you please just stop the skateboard while you're in camp so we prevent any like pullouts? Has
no,
that been a conversation?
no, they haven't reached out to me and said anything to me about it. Which I keep on thinking they're going to, but they let Donald Cerrone do all the stuff that he did, you know. So
You're
like,
right. You're right.
as long as I'm not hurting myself, which I'm not, you know, like it's been awesome to get back on the board and start doing it, and now I start feeling myself. So now I'm doing a lot of cool tricks, and it looks like I'm like going all crazy, but this is like I did this, you know, like back to like
Yeah.
I never talked about it or came out like that, but I was really a skateboarder. Like I really thought
Yeah.
I was gonna be a professional skateboarder, best skateboarder in the world. Like that was my first love, you know. So like for me, it's almost like second nature getting back on my board. The more I've been on it, the less I have a chance of getting hurt. So it's weird.
Yeah, dude, when I saw your videos, I was like, he's actually pretty good. The reason I gravitate towards it so much is because I used to skateboard a lot when I was a kid as well. And dude, I was the MTV kid watching the X Games at 6 a.m. in Puerto Rico because that's the only time we'll get like the recording played back. So when I saw you, I'm just like, this is pretty fucking cool, dude. Like, we're not used to seeing fighters do that kind of stuff. Fighter usually have that macho image, right? Outside of fighting, they want to look cool with the nice car and the girls. And here you are, a family man, skateboarding, having a YouTube channel, cooking. Dude, I love it. Like, although people might say that's not what people are looking for, I disagree. I think that once people catch up to it and they realize, like, they can see themselves in you. That's my case. I'm a father. I have a 2-year-old. I'm doing this content creation thing. I'm involved in the MMA world. And once I saw that, I'm just like, dude, it's very easy to connect with you as a fighter because of the things you do are so normal.
Yeah, man, and I agree with that, and I think people will start. I think people will start to catch on to that because like all those things are cool, right? If I can get a cool car, if I get to the point where I can have cool things, I'm gonna have them as well. That would be great. You know, I'll take God's blessings for sure. But is that what matters? Like, is that what we really care about? You know, like I'm out in my truck right now. I have to get my truck fixed, and I've been driving around my wife's van, and you know, I feel cool driving around my big old lifted truck. You know, and I'm driving around her van. I'm like, am I a different person now because I don't have my truck? I get out of the van, people look at me a little differently, you know. You get out of the truck, people are like, "Oh, who is this guy getting out of this big truck?" You know. So I don't know. For me, I feel like all that stuff is cool, but some of it's like, some of it doesn't matter, right? Does it matter if I don't drive a cool car? Does that mean I'm not going to still violently do my best to separate you from your body for a moment? You know, like that doesn't change. Like, you know, like I
It
still
does.
like I don't think it takes that. It doesn't matter all that and for me in particular that's what I come from. I come from those type of thoughts, you know, where like you got to be
Yeah.
hard, you got to be this type of person, you got to be that type of person. People don't accept you for that, feeling isolated and out, you know, like the oddball out because I didn't necessarily want to go down that route, but I did. There was a lot of moments where I was a follower, you know. I wanted to feel part of everybody, and there came a point where I was like, and honestly through being a parent, you know, my son's taller than me right now. It's like, you know, you start looking at things like that and you're like, man, in real retrospect, like, how am I going to come out and be this macho man and do all those things? That's not what I want to teach my kid. He's not going to be the biggest person. Even if you are the biggest person, that doesn't work in real life. Not for you to be successful, civilized family man. And when I say family, doesn't even mean having kids, right? If you choose to have a partner, what kind of man are you going to be for that partner? You can't just be a violent brute for that. That's not how a healthy relationship moves forward, right? So it's like embodying these things are actually and showing that vulnerability because it is a vulnerable place, you know. I think those are actually more they're strength for me, you know, because I don't go in there with this fake persona. I gotta go out. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to show it. Like I just gotta go out there and be me, you know, and do what I do anyways. And I love that, you know. I love that. It's something I've been really feeding off of, and I want to keep that same type of energy. I don't want to have to go outside of myself and do these things. I love gardening. I love fighting. I love being a father. You know, I love gaming. I love all these things. I can't do them all. I love skateboarding. Like I love them all. What I can't do them all. They take away from me being a fighter or the fact that I'm gonna be violent when it comes time to be violent. I just don't see how that correlates.
No, that's an awesome way of looking at it. Can you tell me a little bit about the turning point? Because for people who don't know, you had a pretty rough upbringing, right? You were born in Detroit. Streets were rough. You guys end up moving to Phoenix. Then you start getting into trouble. Just like you said, you were a troublemaker as a kid. What was the turning point? Because listening to you talk right now, you sound like a different person. It's like, how could you ever be that person you claim you were at that point? But what was the turning point in your life that showed you a different way, and now you look at life in a whole different way?
And honestly, I really think I've always had this part of me that wanted to show itself, right? Because a lot of people will say, like, I think I've always had this part of me, the things I said, things I remember wanting to aspire to, but I also let my surroundings play a big part in the decisions that I made, right? And that's where the other part comes from. Like, this part of me, and this is and how I exude myself, is truly something I had to work on and become comfortable with who I wanted to be. Like, you know, everybody gets a chance to show and to tell who they are, but most people don't let that happen. They just let what everybody else say be who they are, you know? And I could have done that. So for me, I think a big turning point was when I was 25 years old. You know, I had dipped and dabbled, you know, me and my wife hadn't been married yet. She was living in another state with my two kids. Life was really crazy. One of my nephew died, or excuse me, my cousin died from a car accident. Like all these things just correlating, happening back to back. I had like 11 people living with me, drugs being sold out of the house. We're doing tattoos, you know, just And then my wife now was like, "Hey, I'm moving back," and then the cops had pulled me over and told me my house, like all these things that happened that were like blessings, you know, blessings in disguise, just looking over me saying, "Hey, you got a decision and you can make a change right now if you really want. You don't want to be a part of all this stuff." Like you really don't, you know. You're just letting yourself get sucked into these things. You don't want all these people to be around your children. You don't want all like you know like, and finally, you know, I just made a decision like, hey man, I got to step out of this, and I got back to the gym because I that was kind of during the point where I had 3 years of a hiatus when I wasn't fighting. I was just training here and there. I was really inconsistent. Um, but I just had to make a decision, you know, and I made that decision. I was like, man, I want to be a father to my children. You know, I want to be a husband to my wife. You know, like I don't want to be out here running around looking for females, being crazy. None of it's beneficial to my life. It's just gratitude and glory that really dissipated right when it was over. So right around 25 years old, that's what happened. My wife moved back here. I kicked everybody out of the house I was living at the time. I started focusing on being there with my kids. Started focusing on being, you know, getting back with my wife now, but would be my baby mom at the time. And then you know, just day by day, depositing that penny. And this is the result. You know, trusting the process because it's been a process of 8 years. You know, 8 years coming out of being that guy, you know. And I always think about it too. I'm like, man, sure enough, somebody's gonna be coming out with some pictures, videos of me doing some crazy stuff, being somewhere I shouldn't be. Because I know people will say things to me, and I'll be like, dang, I did do that, you know. And I'll be
Yeah.
like, man, you know, dang, you know. So it's like, we'll see. When it happens, it is what it is, you know. Like I was who I was, and you know, there's no taking that back. But everything I can be with every day going forward is what I'm gonna focus on, you know. And that's basically where it's been for me. I made that change, and it's just been a day by day grind.
Now, I don't think, even if it happens, I don't think you should ever be ashamed. I think people should give you just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of the actual Marcus McGee, and they'll realize it's a whole different person. And whatever happened in the past and shape who you are today. And that's what matters at the end of the day, dude. Like, I can tell you, like, the vibe you give people once they're around you, it's a very positive vibe. And you don't get that around a lot of people in this day and age. And that's one of the reasons. That's when I talked to you in the hotel, I told you, it's like, dude, I don't want to do it here. Like, take your time, focus on Kyler, do your thing. Once you guys are back home and I'm back home, we'll do this in a better setting, in a way we could talk a little bit more profoundly and give the time it needs. Because I'm a fan of profound conversations. Like, I'm 32 years old. I'm a father. I'm also trying to make it in a different way, but pretty much in the same industry, just in a different matter, right? And I can tell you pretty much the same thing. Once my daughter was born, it just shifted. It shifted not only my mentality on I want to be a present dad, I want to be there, I want her to be proud when she grows up, but the hunger, dude. I don't know if it happened to you, but the hunger switched like 10 levels. Like, I've always been a pretty hungry guy, like very focus driven. I like being competitive. But once my daughter's born, it's like, you guys don't understand now. Like, I'm coming for your neck, dude. Like, I'm coming for your neck. So has that happened to you as well?
Yeah, 100%. And my kids are getting older with the days that pass, you know. So for me, it's like I really realized the time that we're in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard for me to take it for granted. You know, these kids, my daughter's about to be a sophomore in high school. You know, to think I have a sophomore in high school, that's crazy. My son's going to be a freshman in high school. My youngest kid is going to be a fifth grader, you know, or fourth grader. You know, it's like, what? It's like, geez,
Yeah, it's pretty
these days
crazy.
just keep passing by. So it's like, grab him by the hand, you know, grab it by the neck, you know, and do it. And I tell my kids the same thing. We're gonna go through it anyways. Like, which part of you wants to go through it? The part that half-assed it, or the part that gave it all? You know, because at the end of the day, like, we're either gonna get it or we're not. But what stands apart is what we put in to get it or not. You know, and so yeah, that hunger for me, man. I'm hungry. I tell guys that all the time. You know, I'm hungry. You know, and then I think another part of it is like knowing when to suffer. There's that quote. I think it's from Epictetus. It's like, the man who suffers before...
Stoicism, baby. That's what's up.
Like,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
And I think it goes, the man who suffers before it's time to suffer suffers too much, you know, or suffers more than he needs to. And it's like,
Yeah.
the moment for stress will be there. The moment for happiness will be there. Bask in it while that moment is happening. And then as the moment flutters away, which every moment does, let it flutter away and go into the next moment, you know? And I think it's helped me having the kids and going through these moments and doing all that stuff too. And in a different way too. It's not even a selfish hungry anymore. Before, it's like, you want all this glory, you want all this. And I just want to give the glory. You know what I'm saying? I just want to give the glory to the Lord. I just want to give the glory to the people around me who have built me. I just want to build all that, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what matters so much more than just the me part of it.
Dude, we just had a moment right here, and I always wonder, I'm like, dude, I felt we had a really good chemistry when I talked to you. You felt like a great guy. Now it all makes sense. Stoicism, dude. Like, once I found Stoicism, Stoicism? Is that how it's pronounced in English?
Yeah, that's I think that's the plural for...
Yeah, right? There's a word. So, I think it was a turning point in my life. Like, I used to, like, dedicate a lot of time to think about what people thought about me, the way they perceived me. And I always want to have control about everything. When things didn't go my way, I would freak out. And then I found this guy called Ryan Holiday. He changed my life forever, introducing me to Stoicism. And then I just have a different outlook in life. I enjoy the moment. If I can control it, fine. If I can't, why stress over it, dude? You know, it's happened today. Like, I gave you the wrong time for a scheduled interview. And then when I realized, I'm like, well, I'm the one who messed up. What am I going to do? I'm not going to get upset. I just went, grabbed the bite, waited for an hour and a half, and now we're doing this. So I'm glad. I'm glad to know that you also have a similar mentality in that aspect. Now, let's get back to fighting. Do you have a favorite fighter, an active fighter nowadays?
I don't, and it's the only reason I say that is because favorites. I'm like so bad about favorites. I don't know if it's my ADHD or what, but like, I literally don't have a favorite like anything, and I'm like all over the place. So no, I don't have a favorite fighter. I love so many fighters, but right away there's like not one. Justin Gaethje, I love him. Dustin Poirier, I love him. You know, Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse is a legend. You know, like, he's definitely up there in the rankings for that. I love Conor McGregor. You know what he's done for the sport and just his fighting style.
Definitely.
And would love to see him go crazy again. So so many guys, but no favorites, man.
That's interesting. That's interesting because the names you mentioned, you can tell we're pretty much the same age, right? Like we've seen their growth, we've seen their development, and now watching them as veterans still do their thing is it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie. When it comes to Sugar, let's talk about a little bit about Sugar. What does it mean to train with him? How has that helped you in any manner? And do you learn anything off of him, like him being the champion, the heights he's reached? And at one point, let's be honest, with Sean, we had very high expectations when we saw him initially, right? The style, he was flashy, knocking people out. Then for a period of time, the level of competition he was facing, regardless of the reasons why, was very iffy. People were not happy with the level of competition. So when he fought Jan, where it's like, okay, Sean's about to get steamrolled. And then we saw this different version where it's like, wait a minute, where has this guy been? And now he's a champion, and he just defeated in a clear manner Chito Vera, very dominant. What have you learned from that?
Yeah, I picked up a lot. I think we all, that's one of the things training together for so long. I think we all have picked up a lot of different things and can utilize those things to our benefit as well, right? So there's a lot of things I picked up from Suge, and Tim Welch and the guys over there and Kyler and Mario. We all have a lot of great basics, but we're all different. We're all very different fighters. So it's super exciting to be able to train with them and be a part of that. And again, I've appreciated watching his growth and watching Kyle's growth and being a part of it. I was a part of that Jan camp pretty intensely too. So for me, like even stylistically, I knew that we've always seen that from Shook too, and he does show up to fight very, like he's one of those guys too that shows up to fight. When it's time to fight, Suge shows up to fight. He's going to be the best version of himself that night. Some people you don't get that with. Some people have that stage fright or whatever it is, but he does a very, very good job of locking in, and that's something that I've taken from him as well. It's just locking into those moments, like come fight night is the best version of you. It doesn't matter how every single day of practice went. It doesn't matter how every single sparring round went. None of that stuff really matters because at the end of the day, you have 15 to 25 minutes to see what the real outcome is going to be, and that's where you need to be the best version of yourself. And that's one thing I've picked up from him for sure.
Seeing him out of camp on a regular basis, how do you feel about him moving up to 145? Do you think that's a way he can actually compete? Like that's something that's feasible in the future?
I mean, he'll definitely have the speed advantage. Obviously, the size advantage. He's not going to be a big guy at that weight class. He can put on muscle and he can do the things that he needs to do. Which again, he's still going to be a taller guy at that. In that, he's still going to have the range. He's still going to have a lot of attributes, and he's going to be faster. I don't think, that speed difference between 35 and 45 is there. And it does. I think it does translate up to 45. So I think he's dangerous anywhere. I definitely think he's dangerous anywhere. And weights obviously matter. Ilia Topuria is a tough matchup for him. I mean, he's a tough matchup for anybody in the whole world. How can you not respect that? He puts his right hand on your chin. It's over, and he has multiple different ways to submit you, take you down, beat you up. So, but I do think he'll be competitive at that weight class. And I think, again, the biggest thing about Suge, too, is he shows up and the person who shows up to fight wins the fight. I really think that, it's not always the best guy. Like maybe Ilya does have the weight and should be the champion of that weight class, but Suge shows up that night and takes it from him. Like why not?
Dude, I was talking about that with a friend the other day. I'm just like, I know people gonna think I'm crazy, and I'm usually the guy with the weird predictions. I'm just like, hey, this guy might pull it off. Oh no, man. It's like, hey, you're always talking crazy stuff. But when I look at that fight, I look at the same thing. I'm just like, yeah. Like, if he goes up and he's healthy, Sean has a chance, dude. Like, Sean is very crafty with his striking. He's very fast, very precise, and the power's there. Like, with Aljo, we saw that. We just saw it with Chito. We saw it with Jan. And I think his popularity is climbing back up, and people are starting to believe in him the way they used to believe in the past. So, things are looking good for Shook. Now, back to you. There's one question I always ask anyone I interview before I let them go. And I love the fact that usually people reveal a lot during the talk. So when we get to this part, they literally have to say something they haven't mentioned before. So what is something that Marcus McGhee likes that people would never imagine?
Something that Marcus McGhee likes. that people would never.
You can't mention gardening, you can't mention gaming or skateboarding or any of that. You need to make it new.
So I feel like the only thing that hasn't been like super highlighted is that I'm an anime weeb. You know, like the only time I'm gonna sit down and watch TV for the most part is if I'm watching anime, right? So that's like maybe that's what it is. Like the fact that I've always loved anime, all different types of anime. Uh, what's it called? One Piece. I just finished up the last episode they have, which is like 1,099 or something like that. So
You finished One Piece? Dude, I've been
uh,
trying to start it, and everyone's like, dude, it's so long. It's going to take you forever to finish it. So the fact that you finish it, yeah, I think you get that credential for as an
yeah.
anime fan. Do you have not a preference? You see, this is the part where Spanish and English get tricky. I'm trying to say preferido, which means a favorite.
Yeah, so I do have a favorite. It's called Yu Yu Hakusho. It's a classic, man. Like me and my daughter used to watch it all the time, and still she always pops it on and rewatch it. It's about spirit detective, like saving the world. It's old school, you know. But all the old weaves will understand, like just like the fighting sequences and the time and how nostalgic it is. So that's probably my favorite. But I'm really digging. I'm really digging One Piece. I've always been Dragon Ball Z is probably my number one. You know, it's just crazy that Yuto that
Just
he's
passed
gone.
away,
You know,
right?
so
Dude,
we'll see
yeah.
how that
And I
all
just
goes.
realized, did you see the fight Saturday? Brian Battle has like the dragon on his back with a couple of Dragon Balls. I never seen that before.
I have been seeing so many, and I'm like, yo, that's Shenron. I didn't notice all these fighters that got Shenron and the Dragon
Yeah.
Balls. I'm like, bro, they're stepping their game. I don't have any anime tattoos, mostly because I just didn't find artists that would do the justice that I want. If I'm gonna get it, it's got to be right, you know. Like, but so
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
it'd be,
definitely.
anime weeb.
There we go. There we go. So one last thing before I let you go. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would that be?
I would like to be remembered for being humble, for giving glory to God and not glorifying myself. You know, and that's what I'd like to be remembered for the most part. You know, not giving glory for myself, not being so stuck on glorifying what I am, what I can do, who I can be, but you know, giving the glory to the person, to the thing that made us, that created all of this, that gives us the ability to do anything. Because what would we do without it? You know, what would we do if I mean, the fact that I'm healthy and able to do what I do at 33 years old, and that I feel like I'm just getting started. You know, it's like who can say that at this age? Even like with our podcasting and all these different things. It's like it's a blessing to be in the age I am, to have these things, and yeah, that's what I'd like to be remembered for.
Appreciate it, Marcus. One last thing. You just brought it up, and I wanted to ask you about that, and you just brought it up. Is age a concern? Usually in these weight classes, 35 is like the limit. You know, people don't do very well above 35 years old. You're 2 years away, and you turned 34 this year. Am I correct?
Yeah, I turned 34 in May, so I'm 1 year away from 35.
Is that a concern at all?
No, honestly, it doesn't bother me at all. You know, especially because of guys like I'm around. I'm around Jared Cannonier. I know he's at a higher weight class, but he's 40 and he looks. You know what I'm saying? I really think it's about taking
Savage.
100%. I really think it's about taking care of yourself. That's a huge part of it. You know what I'm saying? Putting in the work that matters as well. Being healthy. You know, and you know, again, I think that I'm a young 34 too. Like, yeah, I'm a young 33. Like, I haven't been through crazy. Like, if you even look at my fights, you know, I haven't really gotten out of the second round that much. You know, I don't take a
Yeah.
whole lot of damage. You know, thank God, thank goodness that my fights have gone how they've gone. So it's like that all adds to the length of my career possibilities, right? And and I think with my style too. You know, like I don't think I'm relying on certain things that would play like, oh, I have to be young to be able to do these things. Like along with my style comes a lot of other attributes that have just been worked in and will I think stand the test of time. You know, so we're gonna find out. But no, I don't think about it at all. It's not something that comes to my head. There was that one bantamweight that was 43. I'm like, man, if he can get to 43, I at least got 38. You know, like.
For real, no. The fact that you mentioned like you don't have that much mileage on you, right? You don't get beat up bad in your fights, and your fight career is pretty young still, so that plays to your advantage. So I agree with you on that. Marcus, I want to thank you for your time. I hope that people with this conversation got a little glimpse of the kind of person you are, the kind of fighter you are, and the kind of father you are. Because I think it's very important to highlight all different things in your life. I think you're a great fighter. You seem like a great guy, fun guy to be around. Saw you in the boat having fun in Miami. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, man, I think we touched base on just about all of it, you know? Like I'm pretty much out there. My social media is just I've been way more on social media and just kind of bring people into the things I'm doing more frequently. And I'm trying to do more too. So, you know, obviously I got the cooking show and the podcast is getting restarted here soon too. We're doing a little bit of rebranding on the podcast, so I'm excited to get started. I'm actually in the podcast studio right now,
That's
so
up.
it'll be fun to get back started on that as well. So yeah, you know, I'm just trying to keep this thing rolling, and hopefully I get some fight news soon, so I can let the people know who we're going out to fight, and you know, go find out what's next.
Definitely do. Well, I thank you for your time. I wish you the best of luck in the future. Hopefully, we run into each other in another event. You mentioned International Fight Week. I might sit a couple of events out because Miami took a toll on that bank account. But hopefully, we run into each other on a fight week. I love to get to see you fight live. You're a very, very interesting competitor, and I think you have a great future ahead of you. So I thank you. Hopefully, it's not the last time. If you need any help with your podcasting, any sort of production questions, dude, I'm your guy. Let me know. Hit me up. We're in contact. So I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate you taking the time. Wish you the best of luck in the future, and see you next
Thank you,
time,
sir. I
bro.
appreciate you having me on, man. It's been awesome. Cool to chop
It's
it
my
up too.
pleasure.
I'm glad we finally got to do it too from Miami. I was like, oh, I want to do it, but it's probably better that we waited this long too to get a good quality talk in there.